So Google releases VO3 and Jafar Panahi wins Cannes. A very strange juxtaposition of headlines, but somehow both kind of tell the story and future of film. Hi, my name is Amir Motlagh. Welcome to Dispatch 002, I believe. Sunday, May 25. A beautiful Southern California day. First, shout out to Jafar Panahi for his win at Cannes. Very, very stoked on that. The resilience of this man, his dedication to craft, very, very commendable. I have to say, Iranian filmmaking of a certain lineage has been one of the big influences in my life. Kiarostami, Panahi, Makhmalbaf, and that cinematic tradition. Very humanistic cinema I absolutely adore. And very, the constraints and creativity for them to be able to think a new vision through kind of reminds me of, non-Western music. So it's not traditionally placed. And there's other Iranian filmmakers who are very well established and they make great films. They don't touch me the same way because they borrow maybe too much from Western storytelling, which, everybody has preferences, but constraints, innovation, they kind of go hand in hand sometimes. And these guys are I don't know, the type of connection they have when they make the work. And I don't want to say this, I'm going to have to say this phrase, and it doesn't really necessarily belong, but when you think about a concept like first principles, again, it's very cringy here, but nevertheless, this type of craft making comes from that sort of thinking. And there's a famous thing that there's one thing that Kiarostami said, and it's always touched me very deeply. And it was in either a behind the scenes, I think it was a behind the scenes for one of his other films. He pans the camera over to a freeway or a street, and there's cars passing by. And he says, I can make a film and tell a story with each and every passing car, or in effect that. I'm paraphrasing. I don't remember exactly, but that's kind of how he was, what he was hinting at. Now, onto the rails that we have here. Google releases VO3. Everybody is up in arms over it. I got a bunch of texts about it, and everybody messing around with it and sending me this, and all the hyperbole that comes along with it. This is the end of cinema. This is the future of cinema, or movies are dead, or Hollywood is done.
Hollywood is dead.
All that shit comes like every single time one of these things releases. Now, I spent some time to work with it a little bit and see what the fuss was about, aside from seeing the clips. Outputs are very nice. They look like Hollywood films. I think they're in 720p, and if you look at the details, you can tell. And this comes to one criticism that we hear all the time, is that, oh, the AI looks fake, or look at the hands, it can't render the hands, this or that. All of that shit's going to be solved. That is not an argument. So it's not whether it's going to not look like a certain thing. It will look like a certain thing in time. That's just one debate, one part of the debate, and that's kind of a silly part of a debate.
Where is this place?
I don't know.
So they will fix for all that stuff. Now it comes to the real arguments about it. There's ethical arguments, there's moral arguments, and And then there is the audience reaction to these things. What is the future? No one can tell you the future of how this is going to pan out. We don't know. No futurist is going to tell you. No tech guy is going to tell you. No VC, none of the, not A16Z. They might want to steer it a certain way because they want it to make tons of money, but no one knows. What I think is going to happen, there's separate paths here. First, the big studios, Hollywood, they're going to use it for timeline compression. So something that would take them, they just want to be able to deliver faster, and they're going to use things that are going to cut time and cost as well. But there's just so much money there. It's probably more in terms of time and manpower. Indies are going to use it for things that are budget constraints. And then Hollywood style cinema, world cinema outside of Hollywood, they're going to heavily use it because they want to mimic the Hollywood style. And this is probably the tool that's going to get them there fastest. Now, here comes the backlash. And I think, especially with indie films, once they are going to start using it heavily, there's going to be audience fatigue. There's going to be this hunger for authenticity that's already there now. I mean, some parallels here already are with art. We've had AI art generation coming out for a while now, and people feel very differently about it than they do other types of art that are craft oriented with artists that you recognize. And that's probably going to happen it's going to unfold the same way. There's the human aspect of scarcity that is psychological based, and that's not going to go away, right? So that is going to matter here. And AI itself, let's say you're making a film and you're prompting everything, you write a script and you throw it out and it pushes it out. Well, ultimately, it's a simulacrum machine. It's a remix of copies and copies and copies, and the originality starts to thin out. It's very different than how humans create or think about creativity and put it into practice. It's a very different set of forms, right? So human also is kind of doing a remix, but they're doing it with a whole layer of emotion and psychology involved, and those things intertwined are the creative forces. That's how we think about creativity. Is the machine doing creativity? Not now. Will it be able to do creativity down the line? That's a possibility, but that's not the thing that's going to jump out right away. We're not going to see that happen suddenly, right? That's we're not going to see the machine come out of the simulacrum anytime soon, if ever. I'm not going to say if anytime soon. At least in our immediate time frame, that's not going to happen. Artists love process, and there will be artists who crave their craft, and there's an audience that respects that craft. Again, this is another parallel you see with the side of art. There's a whole contingency of people who just tune out AI art because, well, frankly, most of it is just slop. The writing is slop, the artistic output is slop, and it's mostly just image based, right? It doesn't have any of the context and backstory that art that we're familiar with has. So the next level here is the audience reception, and I think the audiences for Marvel type films, which are kind of a general consensus audience, don't give a shit either way. So that's why Hollywood is not going to have a major backlash doing that, inserting AI into portions. The indie side, very different, like a very different audience, a different way how they might view that. And I think they're not going to view it the same way, and some of them are going to be pretty repulsed by it. And, the AI could feel very, very dishonest and break the bond of creator and audience. So my stance on AI is more flexible than maybe I lead on. How cool is it going to be when, if we start being able to communicate with dolphins, right? So or cure diseases that have haunted mankind for years. I think those are pretty cool uses of AI, and those are things that frankly can happen and probably will. So I'm going to put this on to you. Do you guys care if filmmakers are relying on AI? Should they disclose that piece of information? Let me know. Leave it in comments. Till next time, I'll see you. Ciao.